Don't forget to be grateful. People live by supporting each other. If you see someone in trouble, help them out. I was raised hearing these words from my grandmother since I was a child. Never did I imagine that such a thing would happen to me, living with these words close to my heart. My name is David. I grew up carefree, surrounded by my loving parents. It was a life of happiness without any want. However, during elementary school, both of my parents fell one after the other and passed away. Although I was still young, I understood what death meant. The thought of never being able to see my parents again made me so sad that I remember crying incessantly. My grandparents were the ones who took me in during that time. From now on, Grandpa and Grandma will create lots of fun memories for you, David. My grandmother said kindly, comforting me. Having retired, they were living a relaxed life, but started working again after I came to live with them. They managed to find new jobs for acquaintances, but the salary wasn't much, so we lived in poverty. Nevertheless, they never forgot to be thankful for their jobs and worked cheerfully, expressing gratitude. Grandpa and Grandma always remembered to be thankful to those around them. Even though our circumstances weren't the best, they never complained. "Why can you be so kind?" I was curious and asked them once. To which my grandmother replied, "People live by supporting each other. We're able to live today thanks to others. That's why we must never forget to be grateful to those around us." Even as a child, her words resonated with me. I thought my grandparents were wonderful people, and I wanted to be like them. I grew up never forgetting those words and eventually entered middle school. To save money for a uniform, I wore one that my cousin had used. It was worn out but still wearable. Wearing it to the entrance ceremony, I noticed some students giggling and saying, "He's the only one with a rag uniform." Feeling anxious about what might happen, my fears soon became a reality. The next day, as I went to school, those who had been laughing came up to me. "Hey, why are you wearing such a uniform?" Max, who seemed to be the leader, asked me. "I can't believe how rude he is." I felt uncomfortable inside, but honestly explained the situation. Then Max and the other bullies started laughing at me mockingly. "No parents and no money, huh? That's so pathetic. I can't believe you can come to school like that. I'd be too embarrassed and would probably skip school." I was astonished by their cruel words. I thought about retorting, but then reconsidered, thinking there was no need to bother with such people, and simply ignored them. However, it seemed my attitude didn't sit well with them. From that point on, I became a constant target of their bullying. They hid my things and hit me under the guise of playing wrestling, and the bullying was quite severe. The teacher turned a blind eye, and I didn't want to worry my grandparents, so I didn't tell them. I thought it would subside eventually, but the bullying continued relentlessly. There was another student in my class who was also a target of bullying. Her name was Emily. Actually, Emily and I lived nearby and have been good friends since elementary school. We were childhood friends. She was also from a poor family, but that made it easier for us to relate to each other without any reservations. Even when friends asked to come over to my house, I always made excuses not to invite them because I was embarrassed about our poverty. Emily understood my feelings well and promised she would never say anything hurtful about it. That's why Emily was special to me, and I only invited her to my house to play together. It seemed like Emily trusted me too, as she occasionally invited me over to her house. It wasn't just playing, We also talked about our dreams for the future. I loved machines, so back then, I dreamt of building robots when I grew up. When I shared this with her, she lit up and said, "That's amazing. I'd love to see a robot you build." I was really happy to have my dream genuinely supported. Even in middle school, Emily and I continued to play together. Gradually, I began to develop romantic feelings for her. However, when Max and his group found out that Emily's family was also poor, they started to harass her. They tried to touch her forcibly and broke her things, doing whatever they pleased. On the other hand, I couldn't just stand by and watch my important friend being bullied. One day, when I saw Max and his gang holding Emily in a headlock, I remembered my grandmother's words, "Help those who are in trouble." I bravely stepped in between them. "Hey, she's a girl. Stop it." Even though I was angry, Max and his group just sneered. "What's with you, man? Do you like Emily or something? You two poor people are perfect for each other," Max taunted. I finally lost my temper. "Shut up. Enough is enough. If you bully Emily again, I won't let it slide." My outburst made the bullies falter a bit, and after throwing some parting insults, they ran off. Emily thanked me repeatedly. "Thank you. I was so scared. Thank you for helping me." "It's okay. We're friends, after all. Helping out is natural," I replied. Hearing this, Emily looked worried. "But are you sure it's okay? I'm worried they might bully you even more now." I was a bit scared of retaliation, but I smiled to reassure her. "Don't worry about it. Those guys are nothing." Really, Emily still looked uneasy, but I tried to calm her down, saying not to worry. Unfortunately, our fears came true. From the next day, Max and his gang stopped bullying Emily. Instead, their harassment towards me escalated. They mixed dirt in my school lunch and physically assaulted me, which was quite severe. Emily felt guilty and once cried, apologizing, "I'm sorry you're being bullied because of me." I never thought for a moment that it was Emily's fault. Rather, I felt pathetic for letting my dear friend go through such hard times. The bullying didn't stop for the entire first year of middle school. If Emily hadn't been there to support me, I might have ended up skipping school. Fortunately, in our second year, we were in different classes from Max and his group, so the bullying subsided considerably. Both Emily and I were deeply relieved. Time passed, and as we became third-year students, it was time to decide on our future paths. I had decided to get a job. It was due to financial reasons at home. I had a secret dream of building robots, and I wanted to pursue further education for that, but I didn't want to burden my grandparents anymore. Academically, I could have gone on to higher education, and both my teacher and grandparents encouraged it. The salary is different between a middle school and high school graduate. Besides, we want David to study as much as he likes. Grandma said this to me, but I knew they were struggling quite a bit. I wanted to join the workforce as soon as possible to ease their burden. Claiming I'm not that fond of studying, I overcame their objections and pursued the path of employment. Being a middle school graduate limited my options, and I eventually got a job at a cleaning company. The job was far from home, so I had to live on my own. At that time, I decided to put away my dream. Although it wasn't the company I had longed for, once I started working, I found the job rewarding. It felt good to see a dirty place become clean, and hearing "thank you for cleaning" gave me a sense of fulfillment for being able to help others. The work was physically demanding, and some people quit soon after starting, but I persevered. I was determined to do my best in what I could do at the moment. Gradually, my hard work began to be recognized by other employees. People have come and gone, but you're the hardest worker we've had. We're really glad you joined us, they even said. My salary gradually increased, and I was able to send money back to my grandparents. They had been very worried about me, a middle school graduate entering the workforce, so my remittances seemed to relieve them a lot. When I sent money for the first time, Grandma even called me. "To receive remittances from you, you've really grown up," she said, sounding a bit teary over the phone. I was glad, feeling that I was finally able to repay them for raising me. As my salary increased, I was entrusted with cleaning larger, more important clients' buildings. Some of these buildings were impressively large. One day, while cleaning one such building, I heard someone say, "Hey, isn't that David?" I turned around to see a well-built man in a suit standing there. "Who is this?" I pondered for a moment, but upon seeing his smirking face, I immediately remembered. It was Max, the leader of the bullying group from school. Unpleasant memories from my student days flooded back, but he continued talking without a care. "So, you're working as a janitor?" "Yay, that's right," I replied. "Huh?" Max looked at me with obvious disdain. "Right, you started working after middle school, huh? Tough life for the poor. I went to college and now work at Jones Corporation. High salary. Thanks to my degree. Guess I'm one of the winners," he said with his usual sarcasm. He still had a knack for being unpleasant. I just uttered some insincere praise like "that's impressive," and got through the encounter. After this day, our relationship from middle school seemed to revive. Max would come where I was cleaning and intentionally drop trash or spill coffee, harassing me. He hasn't changed at all inside. I was thoroughly exasperated. I even thought about reporting him to my boss and filing a complaint. Around that time, I received an invitation to a middle school reunion. The first thing that came to mind was Max's face. I didn't want to go if it meant seeing him, but on the other hand, there were people I wanted to see. After much deliberation, I decided to attend. On the day of the reunion, the venue was at a fancy hotel. Entering the place, I thought, I'm really not used to these kinds of places. Despite praying not to run into Max, he spotted me first. "Hey, it's David," he approached, bringing along a few of his friends, just like in middle school. "You're so poor, yet you come to such a fancy hotel," Max said, apparently drunk, holding a beer bottle, his face flushed. What a hassle. I wanted to ignore him, but he kept bothering me unilaterally. "A raggedy poor guy like you should just leave," he said, pointing the beer bottle at me. Splash! Before I knew it, I was drenched in beer. He's gone too far. I was trembling with anger, but Max didn't stop. "Look at you, fitting for a poor guy. By the way, did everyone know? This guy works as a janitor after dropping out of middle school. Pathetic, right?" He belittled me by exposing my job. "I shouldn't have come here. I'm leaving." I hadn't been there for even 10 minutes, but I headed for the exit. That's when it happened. "David," a familiar voice called from behind. I turned around swiftly and saw a beautiful, glamorous woman. For a moment, I was so startled that I froze. but I recognized the familiar traces in her face. "Is that you, Emily?" She smiled brightly. "Correct. It's been since middle school, hasn't it? Have you been well?" "Of course, I've been good. It's nostalgic, isn't it?" Emily was the person I wanted to see. But Max interrupted our reunion. "Well, she's gorgeous. How about going out for a drink with me after this?" he said, trying to pick her up. It's astounding how someone who once bullied me could do such a thing. I was beyond anger and just felt dumbfounded. Emily seemed to feel the same and completely ignored him. Rejected, Max's face turned even redder. "Refusing me. It's all your fault, David. A loser with a low salary," he rambled incoherently. Emily sighed, walked up to Max, and said, "This is not the time for such talk. Is your company even okay?" Confused about what she meant, Emily then grabbed my hand and said, "We don't need to be here. Let's go." We left the venue and went to a nearby cafe. I was curious about her earlier remark. "What did you mean by Max's company being okay?" "Well, the company he works for is in financial trouble and on the brink of bankruptcy," Emily explained. "What, really? Even though it's such a big corporation?" I was astonished. It was hard to believe. "It's true. Max is a low-level employee, so he seems unaware of it," Emily said. "Why do you know about this, Emily?" "Well, I became a journalist. I heard about Jones Corporation while covering another company." "I see. But it's surprising to hear you became a journalist, Emily. Weren't you quite shy in middle school?" Emily took a sip of her coffee and paused. "Actually, the reason I became a journalist is because of the help I got from you, David, during middle school. Back then, I couldn't do anything but receive help. I couldn't even stop the bullies. That's why I wanted to become a journalist like you. Someone with a sense of justice, pursuing what is right." "That's flattering." Being praised for having a sense of justice made me feel a bit bashful. I had always thought that I made Emily worry more at that time, but it was good to know that I had been of some help. Emily straightened her posture. "I wanted to tell you something today that I couldn't say back in middle school," she said. I instinctively sat up straighter. "What could it be?" Emily slowly began to speak. "I've liked you since middle school. Would you go out with me?" Joy slowly spread through me. I wondered if it was okay to be this happy. "Really? The truth is, I've liked you since middle school too. I came today hoping to see you." Hearing this, Emily smiled. "It's like a dream. Thank you." And so, we officially became a couple. We made plans to meet again and went our separate ways. I felt it was good I came despite the initial unpleasantness. A few days later, I went to clean a building housing Jones Corporation. The employees were bustling about, likely due to the company's bankruptcy, as reported in the news. Emily's information was accurate. Max had lost his job too and was struggling to find new employment. Apparently, he was often absent from work and frequently caused trouble with clients. His bad reputation had spread to various companies. Moreover, he had accumulated substantial debts due to gambling and drinking. Frankly, I thought it was self-inflicted. Finally, the bad guy got his comeuppance, a satisfying turn of events. There was a significant change at my workplace, too. I was assigned to the new business development department. The department I was assigned to was indeed experimenting with various new ventures, mainly focusing on the development of cleaning robots. To my surprise, I was included in the development team. In fact, I had maintained my interest in robots since starting my job, studying them as a hobby. When I mentioned this to my boss, he arranged a meeting for me with the head of the development department. My self-taught knowledge impressed him, and he was surprised by the extent of it. He expressed a keen interest in having someone with my passion on the team, and thus my placement in the department was quickly decided. I never expected my childhood dream to come true in such a manner. Life is indeed unpredictable. I worked diligently there and developed a household cleaning robot. It turned out to be a huge hit. This success led to several promotions and a significant increase in my salary. Recently, I used some of that money to take my grandparents on a hot springs trip. Staying at a renowned inn, we enjoyed exceptional hot springs and cuisine. Grandpa and Grandma said it had been years since they last experienced such luxury, and thoroughly savored their rare trip. I think I managed to repay them a bit more with this gesture. My relationship with Emily also progressed well. Despite our busy schedules, we continued to have regular dates. Then, on the third anniversary of our dating, I proposed to Emily. She joyfully accepted the ring I offered. Emily's parents also approved of our marriage. I had been worried that they might reject me because I only graduated from middle school, but they were not the kind of people to worry about such things. David is someone we've known since he was in elementary school. We trust his character, so we're happy to give our daughter in marriage to him, they said, blessing our union. Of course, Grandpa and Grandma attended our wedding. Both were moved to tears, saying, "There's nothing happier than this. Congratulations." A year after our marriage, we had a child. It was a son. I plan to pass on to my son the lessons my grandmother taught me. We named him Nathan, hoping he would grow up to be kind to others. I believe that's the most important quality a person can have. Although my middle school years were filled with unpleasant memories, I'm glad I persevered and lived earnestly. Going forward, I want to continue living with a heart that cares for others.